fingers crossed. Okay, so that's going. Okay, and if you'd like, I can show the packet on the screen as we go along like we used to.
I think with everybody has their packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just didn't see Hobie. Do we have him visually?
You only have him on audio.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So,
And Hobie, would you talk to me a little bit? I'm just sure we can hear you here.
I can hear Genevieve better than yourself, John. Okay, that's not bad.
No,
That's not bad.
yeah, the microphone's actually a bit away from me.
Okay, that I can still understand you. That's fine, John. That'll work.
Okay, good. Are we live?
yes.
Then I'll bring us to order at 5:01. The first order of business this evening is a retirement presentation.
President, would you like to check the agenda?
Yeah, so it's retirement presentation.
Well,
John Everett.
There was a staff recommendation for modifying the agenda slide.
No. Not on my copy.
Okay, that's fine. So, Mike, so you're looking at me.
All right. Who I look at in this situation.
All right, so
It's awkward.
this is an important milestone in the life of any commission. The transition from two elected officials that have been with us for 4 years, moving on, and we'll be welcoming two new commissioners. And so it's my honor to, this should only take an hour or so to provide some brief remarks and some gifts. Now, Kathy is here, and this is John Everett's spouse. Thank you for coming. So but forgive me, I'll start with Mr. Merrill. Somehow I'm not sure of Tina's invitation back. So we'll start with you.
Oh, I'll take Tina's place.
If Tina were here, we would recognize all the work, and time, and effort she made to allow you to come to meetings. And so, because she's not here, I'll present these to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll get them to her.
So, we also have another small gift. Two gifts, actually. This first is a gift box from.
Oh.
Just take the box. Just the box.
Just a box. Oh, no, hang on. Okay, well, thank you.
Well, so this is acknowledgement of 4 years of service to the Port District. I just want to say this is a little bit unusual for me because I had the honor of providing some remarks at the retirement party.
And they were very insulting.
I was going to say
We have
that
the video somewhere.
they were somewhat insulting in a fun way because I worked with David as a co. And I remember the first time that he invited me to come to his office at the county bank. And I looked up behind him and there were these pieces of tin foil. And the bullet holes were the shape of the face. I was brand new here. He was the county administrator. And he played with that. He said, yeah, that was my grandfather, father, basically from 20 paces of shot out the pattern, the outline of the cowboy, frog, whatever it is. And he basically looked at me and said, you taught me some things about shooting. So here I am, brand new guy, and the county administrator is telling me that. So I got a little revenge because for his retirement, I was able to make some remarks that I thought were witty and clever and great, but could be interpreted as sort of insulting. And sure enough, David runs for office, and he became my boss. So I won at 5, but I immediately thought that he'd be asking me to, go get his groceries and things like that.
I never even had to ask.
Yeah, I'll be over tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen, and I'm thankful for that. But I just want to express my appreciation for David Merriweather as a commissioner and as a friend, but as someone who's been part of this commission for 4 years now, it's really important that commissioners work together and collaborate and think about creatively and positively about the work we do and encompass it, kind of grab on all the different aspects of what the court does and lean into it. And David's done all that. One of the most even-keeled and knowledgeable and smart administrators that are knowledgeable of government and process of going through many of it. So as an executive director, I couldn't, I recognize my annual reviews tonight.
You're really working it hard.
I knew you would say something like that. But I just personally appreciate all you've done for the board and the guidance and counsel that you've given me. I thank you for all of that. And as a final measure, this has become a tradition with a carved bowl by Paul Thompson,
Good, yeah.
which has your name and your years of service on the back. It's used for parties. I hope I get invited to.
Yeah.
Although you haven't lately.
Yeah.
So anyway, on behalf of staff, I always speak for everyone who live and terrific to work with. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Greatly appreciate the staff and certainly my fellow commissioners. These last 4 years have been really rewarding. This last one was a little different by any stretch of the imagination, certainly in terms of communications. And I've really learned truly to hate Zoom.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed working with all of you very much and wish you the best as you go.
Commissioner, there's one other item. You were graced by, you may not remember this, it was significant in the annals of the court, but because of your work with the county and our longstanding relationship with Federal County, we actually, the board, through the proclamation, commendation and appreciation, and we named the 2nd day of August 2016 as the David Ray Merriweather. So you've already been recognized by the board, so you don't expect another. And finally, for each party commissioner, I have to be careful with this, but I guess I'll take this on. We provide a name for something that we live on in the annals and be recorded. And for you, you are recognized as the Commissioner of Good Governance, Consistency, and Plaid Sweater Vest. Which is a little throwback to it. That's your, that will last long. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an identical bouquet of flowers. Kathy, these are for you in appreciation for all that you've done to accommodate your husband. Been working for the board, long meetings, reviewing paperwork, and all of this stuff. So, thank you.
But
Well,
it's
that's about
time
it.
at home, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about
I was
it.
hoping he would be on every Tuesday night, but that's just.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's it. Let's wrap it up. No, for Mr. Everett, we have an identical gift box. I think there's a couple of additional oranges.
It's very thoughtful gift. Thank you.
So for President John Everett, if you're the executive director, you work more closely with the president of the commission. Agendas, we can talk occasionally about various matters and looking to you for guidance and such. I've been blessed with really good commission presidents, with commissioners over the years. And Mr. Everett, I put you right there. Just so much appreciated how much you gathered all the different activities of the board, absorbed them, and reflected good judgment. good advice and counsel to me and to the staff. I really appreciate the way you assisted with that effort to accelerate the real estate strategy. And that was a big help. But it's just mostly your good humor, the way in which that you comport yourself in commission meetings, and just talking. It's always, you're always receptive to a phone call, to a question, and you listen when I'm just going on and on and on. So I just so much appreciate the manner in which you conducted your affairs and managed this board and board. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. And this is a goal for you. It's different. And I'd like to say there's something to read into the two symmetry of this. This one does and it had a crack. So Paul Thompson noted the crack, spilled it, but he said that's special. I'm making that up. But this is, there's something about this that's really special. It's symmetrical, it's balanced, it's even, and I think that reflects your mannerisms all along.
Michael, thank you. Flattering. I only hope I get invited to Dave's dinners.
Yeah.
It's not
No.
those are special.
Absolutely.
And so for Commissioner Everett, your moniker will be, unless you want me to modify it, Commissioner of Good Governance. I'm sorry, that's Davis. That would be bad form. Commissioner of Net Good Humor in Class 4 Rapids. Should I have said Class 5?
Not anymore.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful journey, and staff has been done a major reason it's been as rewarding as it has been, as well as commissioners that were open-minded, very effective in getting our work done. So I don't think there's been a contentious meeting. You went home going, damn, why did
Probably have.
So, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, maybe I can move the flowers. Commissioner Sprague, looks like this is a funeral.
Should we move on? Introduction of Greg Egbert.
Well, I am so pleased to introduce Greg Hackberry here, sitting in the pilot's chair. Greg was patient to go through a long process that included multiple interviews with me, and the staff, and me again. And I'm just so pleased to have Greg on board. He started yesterday, so don't pepper him with a lot of questions just yet. Greg has a really varied background. He has an architectural degree. One of the aspects is how much experience he's had in different areas: construction management, large-scale land planning, some for the Department of Defense, and most recently for a local company that basically is looking for land and goes through the entitlements and the acquisition process. So, a wide variety of experience. And Greg, I don't want to say a few words, but it's great to have you on board.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, good evening, commissioners. I'm Greg Hackberry, and I'm excited to be part of the team. It was not a lengthy process by my mind. I enjoyed meeting everybody, and I felt comfortable through the entire process. I'm looking forward to working forward and supporting the board's mission and continuing the legacy of exceptional service to our community. So, thank you.
You're also a mountain biker.
That is correct. I try to keep it down. Not always, but I try to do what I can.
So Greg, welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for signing up.
Excited.
Any modifications, additions to these?
there. Just a small change, but we would recommend that you move action items D and E up to A and B. That's it's sort of hidden there, but that's a very important matter, which is to adopt our 21-22 budget.
So we have it.
Genevieve?
Commissioner Strike?
Genevieve?
She left the room for a minute.
Commissioner Strike, Genevieve stepped out of the room for a second. Is there something I can help?
Okay. Are we on modifications and additions to the agenda? I can't really hear real well.
We are.
Okay, I would like to pull out of the consent agenda line item I and K to move down to action items would be F and I.
The actions or discussion?
I can put it in action, that's fine.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
All right, so absent items I and K, those are right, Commissioner Strike?
That's correct. Thank you.
There's no other desire to move off the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Strike, aye.
Mr. Everett, aye. Approved. The informational reports. Just bridge replacements. Everybody read it? I thought it was really informative this time.
I should have noted Kevin is finishing up a vacation. He's still on vacation.
Well, his report was excellent. The presentation and discussion, the strategic business plan, final draft. Got Genevieve. Maybe we should skip over that. Do your report and wait for Genevieve to get back.
You see,
Yeah, I can't pull the agenda for some reason, so if you get
no,
the paper.
So Commissioner Strike, we're going to the executive director report. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, I speak up. Just to highlight a few things, I didn't note it in my report, but our intent is to open up the office on July 6th. This has been a bit of a long process and probably extended in part because we've been working on the front office remodel project, which is requiring permits, and now we're going to selection of the contractor phase. So it's always been a push-pull as whether to open the office and close it. With this point, as soon as I open up the office, I put up some plexiglass. We need to finalize what rules for customers coming in. Wear masks, not wear masks. We'll do that. We'll open for the public on July 6th. I pointed out that Cole, Kendall, and Victoria Mallory had some interest this year. I thought they had a report for the entire summer. They're so good at it. So this is a lot of data that's associated with emails. There's hundreds of them associated with different properties. So we have an appraisal here, multiple surveys, that sort of thing. We're aggregating those in an organized way. The read-only part of it. So,
I thought that would have been a couple of years worth.
yeah, they're moving pretty fast. Wanted to just comment on details, but working on it pretty close for the project. The difference this year is we have less staff, there's fewer summer employees, and so we'll see how it goes. But at this point, our our operational assumption is we'll have very few staff here for that meeting. Typically, we have a whole array of staff that are out there, basically closing out portions of the whole marina parking area as parking. So it's finally fully parked, and we have barricades up here. We have guys up there that are manning barricades, fireworks. We don't have that stuff. So police are down here frequently. We will have a couple of staff that are monitoring parking. And we will have a private enforcement person overnight. We simply don't have a staff to do it.
We're not going to try and direct traffic.
No. Now, there was an incident a couple of years ago where one of our employees was almost struck by a vehicle. So when we put him out there and say, you can't come through, one, it can put him in a tough situation.
Mhm.
Two, there's really not a whole lot they can do. Everyone's parked down.
Okay.
Really, two really good news that I mentioned before, but the OSFD approved the grant application that we submitted for the ramps that they were launching. That was good news. And then a long process, but DEQ did finally sign out for an NFA for the Jensen site. A long-standing challenge, a cloud over that property. Thanks to Jerry and thanks to other folks in getting that through. I mentioned finally a number of really important bridge items that are coming up. We'll take them to live and have an update to the commission and evaluation of the late meeting. Work with site approach ramps from the standpoint of adding the top enforcement roads. So those will be, oh, and then the report on the NISPAN inspections. Don't have them yet, but we should expect all three of those. I guess just a reminder, it's July 15th for the continuing as commissioners, the first meeting for the two commissioners. We welcome Commissioner Fox and Commissioner Gary. Prior to that, at 3 o'clock, we'll have a typical board training for the trainer in this year. So the idea is to put that all on the same day. And we'll swear in the two commissioners. So that's my report.
All right, thank you. And a lot of good progress on the bridge. We'll go back to the presentation, excuse me. That's, yeah, Jenny, future business plan.
I'm gonna walk over there so I'm not super loud on the feed. So, in your packet is the final text draft of the strategic business plan and a couple of sample pages to give you a general feel of the style guide. The page layout and the graphic design is still underway, but we do want to get your approval on the content itself. And so that would be a separate motion. I'd like to have sort of a head nod consensus that the style guide looks okay. That's being done by PageWorks, and Roundtree's going to be working on that this whole week. We had hoped to have it ready for you to review in its final form, but we just don't have it ready in time. It's been a crazy year. One thing I did want to review with you is a timeline. It's been a really unique timeline in how this plan has come together. We started out in November of 2019 with a traditional kickoff meeting facilitated by Terry Moore, where we did sort of a modified SWOT analysis. And since that time, we haven't had a series of those same traditional strategic meetings. However, in that same amount of time, you all have made decisions that have been incorporated into this plan. And I wanted to sort of review a little bit of that. So starting with November of 2020, as I mentioned, we had our summary kickoff meeting. Then in March of 2020, we had a meeting where we reviewed a list of key assumptions. And we had a subsequent meeting reviewing a final list of key assumptions later on. And then in April of 2020, you received the report from EnviroIssues on the results of the public information survey. Remember, we had an electronic survey, we had a paper survey that was included in the results, special agreement with the next people to distribute people and English surveys and English language surveys to underserved populations. So that was in April. And then in November of 2020, we had a fall planning session where we sort of reviewed the methodology that we were using to, this is not a brand new strategic update to the 2014 to 2018 plan. We talked about how we would handle the situation assessment amid all this uncertainty from COVID. And the commission directed us really to just, in the plan, acknowledge those uncertainties. And talk about and defend our decision of going forward with the plan amid that. So that's what that is. And then we also fall planning, spring planning, some budget committee discussions, and several regular sessions. You had made decisions about, as Michael mentioned, a use policy, the real estate development options where we prioritize within a specific budget which land development projects we wanted to look at first, second, and third, and which parameters. So that should all be incorporated. Other operational areas, the airport, and they're all talking about two of those. The airport and the marina, both of those in the city committee, and we had multiple meetings with those folks to gather recommendations for capital projects at those facilities for the next 5 years. Waterfront recreation hasn't since COVID met, so we don't have that same level. So as you're going through this, if you have specific capital projects or specific strategies or actions you want to add into that section, I think it might be our weakest section because we didn't have that sort of stakeholder. Beyond the survey, we didn't have that group in the airport. The other change, and we talked about this in is when we first met in November of 2019, the commission had a formal action, I think, it might have just been consensus, to keep the mission statement and the vision and the value statement the same. As we've gone through this process and throughout this past year, our consultant recommended that we include a diversity, equity, and inclusion bullet point in our values statement. And so we have added that, crafted what we thought would work within the context of the plan. And so that is something that's really and we want you to discuss as part of the plan. Any other questions?
You could also, maybe you did, but point out that the work that was done on the bridge bed.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we had both for the existing bridge and for the replacement bridge. Those are both with the transportation service area, but obviously dealt with separately and together. So we talk about the long-term capital maintenance plan and the projects that we anticipate for the existing bridge, and then the adopted bridge replacement strategy and the MOU that we have with the bi-state working group. So those are both addressed there as well. There's a very long list of actions that is part of that, the result of that whole planning process. We want to make sure that that's reflected properly in the plan. Am I forgetting anything else?
No, I guess I'd just say that there's that, it's right up front, but that inherent challenge that this commission and future commission will face when we're working on bridge replacement at the same time. And if that's successful, then 65% of the revenue is gone. So in terms of order, the steps that what's the step? Let's just say.
And I think we should be really clear that that's a central concern of all the The other thing that is a little bit different from the first plan is that this is the result of the work we identified along with those 5 service areas, the bridge, the marine, the airport, water recreation, and real estate. We also have essential services administration concern, and there are some specific strategic actions we not made to have to pay over the next 5 years. So on his recommendation.
Or at least approval of the direction that we're headed with the doc.
Yeah, approval of the text of an action item. According to the.
Maybe we can get each commissioner to give you a little bit of
Yeah,
comment.
let me get to
feedback.
where I can take notes.
Commissioner Strike, you want to start with comments on the strategic business plan?
No, I'm fine. Thanks, John.
I'm not gonna put Daryl on the spot, but if there's any language you want to add, might put something, they should add something for waterfront recreation in there. Not putting it together,
Mhm.
but.
I think it's the right.
Something we should put in there to allow for future language or future projects if I want the next couple of years that some of the stakeholders might want, or just coming back to town, so.
Yeah, so we have a chapter, it looks like it has about 16 actions. Projects include the interpretive signage project that's going to be wrapped up this year. New rigging areas at the Hook that we were successful in funding through the Travel Oregon grant that we need to wrap up by November of this year. Replacing the pedestrian bridge deck, installing pedestrian bridge lighting, paving the Nichols Basin dock parking lot, some tree replacement, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other projects on page 171.
171.
Part of that I want to make sure is in there.
There's some significant overlap. We took some really good suggestions from the Marina Committee that addressed some of the upland stuff from the Marina Basin and incorporated that in this. And what they felt very strongly, Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, that the port should prioritize youth programs, youth sailing, and access to the water for local resident, especially youth programs. And so that sort of leads into some of these facility considerations at the Marina Basin.
There's a swim dock made at 450,000.
That's the one I was checking to make sure it's there. Yeah, I just didn't see it earlier, so, yeah, okay,
Is that there?
it is there.
That's a really expensive swim dock.
It's a placeholder. You can imagine a lot of curve.
Yeah, the in-water work is, so much of it is permits.
Okay.
It was a significant amount of information to digest and very well organized and laid out, and I think you guys hit the nail on the head and did a great job, so.
It was a really non-traditional year and a non-traditional plan, but, Terry did a great job. We just sent him everything we had and said, make it make sense, and he did, and I think he did really fantastic work.
No, echo Commissioner Chad. This is a lot of information, and we've been over this several times. No surprises in here, really. But it's very thorough and very comprehensive. My only question is, given the projected year that these things would occur, since we essentially lost it, have those been altered with respect to where we are now?
Yeah, the 2017 numbers versus, the numbers that they're in. You mean budgetary numbers?
No, not so much that as the years that these things were anticipated to occur.
Yeah, those dates were put down in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right, that's
yeah,
correct.
really.
They'll even push some numbers out. You can see it at the airport, for example, up to 2027.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
For that reason. Typically, it's a 5-year plan. This could actually be 6 years.
and I think we've mentioned it throughout the narrative that the central challenge for the governing body is going to be how to achieve these goals while amid, bridge replacement and achieving those goals, and All of this is the result of so many years of smart investment by these commission after commission after commission. So we have this challenge of how do we keep the good stuff and not get in the way of the new good stuff. You know, I wish we had a little bit more time to kind of think through the balancing act, but that really can't be thought through until you're in it, you know, and it's the implementation of these actions that is always the important part. The planning part is done and we have our list to refer to and we have our priorities established and our ultimate goals, but it's, you know, the next 4 years as they unfold, how do we balance all of those challenges? It's going to be the magic of the whole thing.
Oh, and I'd like to add too, I like that it is more of a living document
Yeah.
and that there's been, you know, instead of having to redo the whole thing, there's
Yeah.
dependencies and,
I think that helped a lot.
so that's awesome. Because we
Yeah.
tweak is necessary.
Right. And that, you know, I think Terry really encapsulated that really well in clarifying in the last sentence, you know, that we have in the last paragraph of the plan, he's talking about how we have these priorities. Here's a summary of those key projects that we want to achieve, but it's important to note that we're not creating any new service areas. We're not doing anything new. We're not looking to serve, you know, in any other way. We're not building, you know, hydropower plants or anything like that. This is just, and that's something important to state in the plan. So I think he did a good job, and you know, that his last question was, again, suggestions may arise, but the test will be as stated above. Can we still do what we want with the services we now provide? And two, if not, is the new service more important than the full plan level of service for the existing plan? And that'll come, I think, over the course of the next 5 years. So.
One addition I'd suggest, there's a list on page 146, which is following the summary. There's a lot of projects listed in the section, but that's the roll-up of the most important projects. The one that isn't there is industrial infrastructure. First Street.
North First Street.
Potentially an EDA grant request. We should listen.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good catch, Michael. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I think it's also worthwhile to bear in mind that that's a good example as infrastructure funds may become available that would take something that might be a priority group 3 and jump it up to a 1 because that's where all the money's there. So
Yeah.
that will tend to create the flux. That's the same list that's on 175, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I echo the other commissioners? I like the addition of the central services section.
Yeah.
Because it gets administration on board. And I don't really know how to get to it. I think it's going to have to evolve, but has been evolving and should accelerate. Now that Greg is on board.
Yeah.
That we'll address it later on tonight in executive session. But the stark reality is we're going to transfer from utility provider with a bridge to a real estate investment company.
Right.
We're not thinking like real estate investment managers yet. Hopefully, Greg will provide the data that allows us to make that transition. Great job. Good work.
Thank you.
Actually, quite likes his opening paragraph. It said what a strategic business plan is. Every now and then you should stop and look around.
Yeah. Yeah. But not too much.
Okay. Anything else? We're done.
That's it for the discussion. Yeah.
Right. Commissioner committee reports. It's absent. So Commissioner Chapman,
Our last meeting was really great. We had some great feedback from Senator King and our lobbyists about all the efforts that they're doing, and we're just pushing forward. It sounds like the Washington side is eager, and Michael, correct me if I'm speaking, is eager to kind of continue to press forward and actually start talking about wording for legislation that would allow this by-state entity to be more official.
Mhm.
And then they want to work with the Oregon side to make sure that, it works. So, yeah, I mean, Washington seems very excited about everything, and so it was a great discussion and presentation, and everyone was very happy, so. Anything else to ask about that?
Well, I thought Steve's presentation, they're typically long. There's a lot of content there, a lot of thought that was in it. I thought the message he was sending and subsequent to that was the better news. He and the attorney from Pacific are in alignment about most of the format. So far, most of the content that legislation will be vetted by multiple attorneys from different jurisdictions here, and also DOJs, DOT attorneys in our states, including bond counsel. So there's a lot of attorney review. It's a good start.
Enthusiasm counts. Urban renewal.
I was not in town and able to participate in that. I don't know if Mr. Strike was.
Commissioner Strike, urban renewal.
I was in the left seat flying an airplane back from Utah, so I wasn't there either.
Well, they spend all their money anyway.
But I would like to bring up a matter that exactly in Michael's executive director's report has to do with the Energy Council. And we did meet last month about this, and there's some information in your packet with regard to positions or, I guess, expressions of support or comments with regard to legislation in particular, and whether or not those things that Energy Council wants to engage, say, a bill proposed to the legislature, should that first go back through the individual governing bodies for concurrence with better not be. And we discussed that on the council. I think at one point the city of Hood River may have felt like that would be appropriate, that if there's going to be a letter from the Energy Council, since the city participates, it should go before the council list first. My opinion of it is that if it is something from the Energy Council, the fact that the public entities, the two boards in the county and the city of Hood River, have membership there, that does not necessarily need to go back to the individual governing bodies for a blessing, as long as the position of the Energy Council is consistent with the energy plan that we talked about. From a practical standpoint, if each, if there was a request to make comment on legislation, from a practical standpoint, if you're going to go back to the four governing bodies, you're not going to comment because you'll have to go through all four before the matter's gone by the legislature. So anyway, that's sort of a summary of that information that Michael had on his executive director's report. My hope would be that the board commission would say yes, as long as it's clear that the Energy Council is not speaking on behalf of Fort Hood River, but as an entity or committee, community would not necessarily come back with blessings before this. They would, though, submit a copy for whatever comment was back to us. Make them aware. And that's particularly with regard to things like legislation, PUC, so I guess the question would be, is there an objection to that? Or this commission is it okay for the Energy Council to so
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I forgot to bring that up. So this is what they're looking for, is just a consensus. The board member was comfortable giving, essentially delegating authority to comment on legislation or letters without having to go through the process of collecting and approve specific approvals for each council. So there's a practical element to it, but as Commissioner Merriweather points out, there's an adopted energy plan. So if the comment is made consistent with that, then it should be consistent. The elected officials have changes.
by the way, I don't know about the county and the Board of Cascade Locks, but the city of Hood River considered this their last meeting, so yeah, that's fine.
So the comment was limited to how proposed legislation does or does not support the county energy plan. So it wasn't about any policy questions or even reaching beyond what was,
Right.
which is saying.
Consistent and keeping with.
I'm fine with that. I think that the Energy Council is going to become much more important. And it's not much like the Bridge Authority right now that's kind of young and coalescing around the concept that energy resiliency and independence is the future. So that's what I can keep the finger in that eye.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, you can always, if we see the letters afterwards and we see the, you know, issues, we can say it's important.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it. Especially seeing how quickly some legislation is being written and, you know, signed off on it.
Right.
So,
Trade.
yeah.
Commissioner Strack?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's action items. Per modifications, we'll take action item B, group resolution number 2020-21-4, authorizing the budget transfer.
So, once a year, we come towards the end of the year, all public agencies, or I shouldn't say all, but most, do what's called a budget transfer. It's just a reclassification of your appropriation in the cost objects, personal services and choice services capital. It's a sum zero game, but basically what's happened is you do a budget earlier on, things change during the year, and all you're doing is sort of trimming your budget up. The benefits of this and the value is one, it shows an outsider reading your budget that, oh, you're paying attention to your budget and you're doing something about it. And so that's the value that you get. Whether it's your auditor or an investor, you go out to a bond, if you issue debt, that's a good thing. So this is sum zero. I'll talk about any other adjustments we're making. It's sum zero.
You'll also keep a comment of audit.
Yeah.
And in order to keep comments out of audits, that's a good goal. And I give a motion to approve the resolution.
I move to approve budget transfer resolution number 2020-21-4 for the FY 2020-21 budget.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Everett's aye. Commissioner Strike?
Strike. Aye.
Next up, approve resolution number 2021-21-5, adopting the fiscal year's budget, 21-22.
So yeah, I've incorporated two things in this what I'm asking you to do. One is to approve the budget, but the other is to also approve the property tax rate. So this is what we have looking forward. That should say adoption of budget 2021-2022. Last year's memo, I guess. And that the rest of it's correct. The one thing I will turn to, I think this will change, is on the org chart. Commissioner, I think I have Commissioner Chapman off by 1 year, so I'll make that correct.
He's referring to the term, when the term expires, it's just unfair.
Just by 1 year, so I'll move that from 22 to 20. That's it.
That's not one quick question for you.
Yeah.
Some of the items that were placed in the budget that isn't, this commission has not approved, they're just there in case we decide to do something, place in the budget for Specifically a total increase. That's not approved, but it's just in the budget.
It's in the budget, so you're just approving the budget, so contracts have to come before the board, total increases have to come before the board, rate increases for the marina and for the airport, so all that has to come before the board, so you're just approving just the budget side.
Just wanted to be super clear.
Yeah.
It could easily be read wrong.
Okay. Okay, I get a motion.
They agree that it was all.
I think we can just make a motion to approve this resolution.
All right, I move that we approve the resolution.
Sorry. All right, move in second, please, discussion.
Actually, state the number that we're talking about.
Resolution 2020-21-5.
Okay. Seconded by Commissioner Merriweather. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Member aye, Commissioner Strike?
That's fine.
Aye.
I'll put these, I'll put to these resolutions, I think there's another resolution also in the packet. We'll need to get your signatures.
You'll fix the typos.
Yeah, when the packet goes out.
Then let's go to A. We'll save the ones you pulled out probably for the last. So A is approved the 2021-26 strategic business plan.
As amended.
I think we've had a lot of discussion. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 through 2016, 2026
Sorry.
strategic project plan as amended.
Okay. Second, move in second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Member aye, Commissioner Strike?
Aye.
B is approve amendment to Task Order 1, maintenance and service agreement with P Square.
So I might interject here. Actually, D and C and Kobe's
right.
I and K should all be subject to legal counsel review. These documents came in late, and we haven't had a chance to look at them. And saying subject to legal counsel review will also need executive director approval, because some things might not be just legal, or they might be material. So I think each one of these motions should be that subject to language.
Do we have to go back?
So Gary, the reason why I didn't put that in there, normally I would, but if I just go through it, then we have to change. We
Well,
haven't changed it.
here's the thing, we got the dual language submitted by Catch and language submitted by P Square, and we had to work through some issues with them regarding. We just wanted to check and make sure it's our language, not just the other.
Right. But, okay, so because of the prior years, we used our language. That's why I did bother.
We
But
haven't,
that's okay.
we haven't
You
had
can
time
have
to
it.
look at it.
Okay. So you want to leave B, right? You're gonna explain what we're voting on.
Yeah, so this is the P Square annual maintenance contract. One of the things that comes up every year, in the contract, the back of it, I listed out, everything that they do for us with regard to the contract. The one thing we had in this current year that we're in, not this next year, but this current year, was that 35,000 PCI compounds. We didn't get to it. So that's why it's back in this contract. So we haven't spent that money this year, so that's why I put it back into this next year. The other piece of the project management, that's only used at the point in time we do some more projects. Some of the projects we actually put on hold, so we haven't tapped into all of it yet. That's the fact that ODOT hasn't done their end of the programming on this truck database. So some of this we haven't spent, so we putting that budget back into this next year for the PCI compliance project. The annual service cost did go up from 120,000 to 120,000, just due to the annual, there they have their own costs related to it that increases, but also just the activity that we have that goes on from year to year. The other piece is we do get some reimbursement of this cost from other agencies that use this.
So would that be like their cost to us went up, but some of that's recouped from Cascade Lodge?
Correct.
How much money have we spent with Geek Square on this proprietary software?
I had that. I mean, it's a little over a million collectively for hardware and software. So of that component with P-Square, probably 60% of it's just P-Square.
And have we ever looked at the other, not saying that we should deviate from what we're doing, because we've invested so much time, energy, and money into it, but how does that correlate to other polling software programs?
Right. So we did go out and we did try to go get another software organization. So we started this back in 2015.
Right.
And so to get to your question, there wasn't anything below 1.5 million. And that didn't include that didn't include this.
Right.
That didn't include the annual service. That was just the hardcore $1 million that was spent to put a system together, hardware, software. There wasn't anyone that was lower than 1.5. They didn't even talk about the annual support fee.
And we're at $1 million because we pieced it together with
P-Square.
choosing individual contractors.
In fact, the system they have did not have LPR, did not have license plate recognition, did not have an automated vehicle classification system that basically takes a picture and says, that's a sedan, that's an SUV, that's an 18-wheeler truck. So it didn't have that. It just basically had just the back office that you see today, really not even the back office we have today. And that was for the 1.5. So we've gotten a lot of bang for the buck. For what we have.
And have you had, I know that it's been a different year, but I know that the intent was to go into other markets and try and, encourage other clients. Have you been able to even revisit that at all, or?
I was able to touch base with the Clackamas County folks. They put on hold. They were going to put a bridge across. Yeah. So they use a ferry right now. So they're going to build a bridge, and they came to us for that. They also came to us for the Bull Run. So Bull Run has a bridge if you go up to the reservoir. And what was happening there, Clackamas County owns the bridge, but the county, city of Portland uses it more than anyone else, along with the forest. That was scheduled to be degraded based on some of the initial inspections. So what they were waiting on, they're still waiting on with ODOT to give them that report. If it's degraded to a certain level where those trucks from the Forest Service and from the city of Portland can't make it, then they would look at us to try to toll that. And be able to, they want to toll it for trucks and for any sedans they want to free. So, but they're waiting, they're in the waiting mode. They were also looking at this bridge that goes across the Willamette River right at that ferry, just this east of I-5. And they have put that on hold just for the time being. They're looking at it, but they're looking also at an ODOT capital improvement at the Abernathy Bridge. And if that moves forward, then they will move forward with their as well. So they're sort of in this holding pattern. So that's the latest I have. So I'm just in a holding pattern. I do know that that the Bull Run Bridge is higher on the list for us. So that's the only one that is cooking right now.
Are we allowed to be a tolling authority in that state of Oregon?
According to Jerry, I think so.
Yeah, I think if you have an intergovernmental agreement with another public body that has the same authority.
Then I start thinking about, okay, that's Portland, that's Red River. Let's go that way.
Yeah, we had done all this research on Oregon bridges, and we had what Oregon has. They have a lot of bridges, thousands, but we pared it down to about 68 that really would fit our niche. And so that's where I was going to go. I'd start to go after it. So that's where I'm at right now. But we can probably do the same thing for Washington as well. The effort that we put together for the Oregon trip.
Isn't that identified by one of the interns we had?
Yeah.
So really good, nice report. Beautiful.
Maybe see that it'd be interesting to see if our base cost stays similar.
Yeah.
But we can pick up a
Yeah,
few more clients. I don't know why we wouldn't as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a package to send out and say. We're not-
Need something.
But we at least know the path to go down to define our data. So even for the state of Washington. I think that's-
And we're still using your meetings with the IBDTA, or
Yeah,
that's our primary outreach market.
correct. And the IBTTA was very instrumental in the American Rescue Plan and providing the wording totally in that act, tolling agency, revenue loss for tolling agencies. So I just heard, we heard that FHWA has signed off for the belief that we will receive $477,000 toll loss due to COVID. So, but the IBTTA was a lobbying group that really put that language.
And we're not suggesting we spend money.
What I'm suggesting is that if we talked about earlier, is this for positioning itself in the future, perhaps not being able to have bridge. So that's how we're positioning ourselves. But from this bridge, we're going to be spending money. Our goal should be a net zero to people in this community as quickly as possible by picking up other agencies and getting that to a net zero from the income we get from them. That way, if this is not a revenue source in the future, we have another asset that we're getting money from here, but it's a problem. But it should not be something that we're like, this is just for this bridge. I don't think that's a good strategy.
I mean, as far as marketing goes, I think having an informational piece to easily email out, I mean, that doesn't have to be, through a printing company with a, whole strategy, but just having the information of what we can, how we can support other agencies that may be considering pulling something.
So there's been this thought, at least from my perspective, that, and it's one thing if we were able to get all grant, right, to pay for the replacement of the bridge. The reality is probably closer to reality that we will have to issue that.
It will have to.
Yeah, that we'll have to issue that. I mean, that's probably a more accurate scenario. And if we issue debt, we'll have to have tolls. And so there's a piece of this that says if you issue debt, you have to have tolls to pay that debt. And if you have to have tolls, then we have a system. And we have a pretty good system. It's not like someone, 3M or this Tacoma Narrows Bridge saying, or whoever it is that does something for us will say, oh, gosh, you have an antiquated system. cost. And likely, it probably would take this. And there's a cost to that.
Just need to let people know. If you Google polling software, I don't think Board of the River is going to come up as one of the top hits.
Yeah, not the question before us, but I totally agree.
Right, no, I'm just trying to think of how do we justify in the future.
We're gonna talk about this more as this
Yeah.
keeps coming up.
Yeah.
I think there's opportunities there. This we need to do.
Yeah.
I think there's opportunities in the future.
Fair enough, we'll move on from there.
Thank you for answering.
We get a motion. B, I think.
Wait, hold on.
I move we approve renewal of task order 1 with Peaceful LLC for ongoing maintenance support, PCI compliance and project management agreed by electronic tolling system not to exceed $198,000.
And subject to.
It's subject to,
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Trevor, aye. Commissioner Strike?
I,
C is the FBO agreement, ground lease and hangar lease.
Commissioner Everett, can I speak?
Yes?
Good. Michael asked me to chime in and talk about the FBO agreement. And as I read through it, and after reading Mike Davis's report, I'm proposing that we pull this from the action item and have a roundtable with Mike Davis in the room with us and the 2 new commissioners. This is a 5-year lease, and I'd like to have Mike Davis have the ability to answer our questions in a different format, because my conversation with Mike Davis was totally different than the report that I received in my packet last time, and I was disappointed, and it was too generic, and I think Mike was not able to be truthful and honest with us. And I think Mike wanted to, but there were some restrictions or something. But I'm proposing we pull it from the agenda and we have a roundtable work session, the 5 of us, the 2 new commissioners, and Mike Davis, and he can put it in layman terms, because this is a situation where we've neglected our asset. It's a port asset. We're ultimately responsible for this asset, and I think we have neglected it, and we've allowed a third party to run our asset, and I am tired of that, and I'm done with it. I want it to be pulled from the agenda if possible. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm trying to think through, Commissioner, how that should work procedurally.
If you want to go ahead and ask for a motion, and they can second it, and then we can go ahead and it can default on a motion, that's your call.
I think that's the best. Let's consider your comment, which can be remade during discussion as informative to the vote. And then the vote can go for or against accepting the contract. If it goes against, then de facto we'll have that situation.
Or could we just table it till the next meeting?
We can't, we've done that once already.
Oh,
We've done Mike Davis and those too. I think it's fair enough to call it up or down. Vote.
There will be some changes to the draft FBO. So it's not it's not my so
Is there a date for the agreement to be done, or are we already past the last date?
We passed the date.
So we're dead date. So
But the longer this goes on with that FBO agreement, there's something in place that more risk that port incurs. This is not like a lease that has a whole clause that says it keeps going. So I think it is something that the board needs to.
and it does need to be addressed before we have the fuel new fueling system put in, because the board's going to be derived income from that. It's not fully addressed in the select board of that transition. So there is a clock ticking, and I think that's part of the aspect that we have to be cognizant of. Equal time like talk through some of these issues.
Yeah, I mean, if there's not a contract that's ready to be approved, what is it we're voting on?
Well, it says that the subject to legal counsel review, and the only clause that's pointed out to me is the one related to fuel standard. Specifically, there is an existing fuel tank there with a specific system of management responsibility. Find a new fuel tank, it's going to have new software, it's going to want money. Effectively, what this says is that's going to be our system, and we're going to manage that system. And we're going to be the administrator of the system, and the transactions will go through the report. The details of that simply have not been worked out. And so there is a clause in there that says that's the way it's going to happen, and we will work out those details. And that is prior to the installation of the new tank, which could be September, October. So it's all we're simply doing is saying that's the amendment that will request before the fuel tank is closed.
That was my next question, September, October, potentially the fuel tank installed.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of time, not very much.
No, well, this is a complicated document because it has the use of the white. It's use agreement with the doesn't land because a trailer. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a holdover clause in the agreement.
No, it's just drawing on its own fumes, right? From having done it, and you're carrying everybody in good faith, it's just operating that sort of assumption or farmer agreement waiting for this document to be finalized and signed. And it can be, subject to legal counsel review, and again, the executive director's approval. If we get the language that we recommend or Michael approves, then it's on that. Doesn't have to be on that. So we got those options.
Commissioner Everett, can I speak?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to compare the two to the marina. The marina is ran in-house by our staff. This is a third party that we're relying on to represent the Port of Hood River. And I think it's a very vital contract, and we should look at it. And I make sure that all 5 commissioners understand the impact that we're allowing a third party to have to represent the Port of Hood River. That's my concern. Compared to the marina, it's all in-house.
Understood. In my view, it differs in the fact that the FBO provides an actual service, whereas we're managers of the marina. I mean,
right, but what I'm trying to say is that we have a third party representing the port.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the last thing, Commissioner.
Oh, I just say, John, we have a third party representing the port, and they do things their own way. And we don't have checks and balances in place, and we have neglected to enforce them. And I think we need a better understanding of our asset. And I think if you're not a pilot, you're overwhelmed by it. And it'd be nice to have Mike Davidson at a round table work session, casual, throw some questions out there. He's not biased. He has no interest in it except for giving the truth. I think it'd be beneficial. I'm just throwing it out there, guys.
Understood. I understand the point. The counterpoint for me is that we put this out for bid and got one response. And
well, we can. There's always other ways of doing it. When you're in business for yourself, you have to be creative, and I think we need to do more of that. Think outside the box. And if we have to do it in-house, we'll budget for it and do it in-house. We have to. No choice. We can scale down the operation and still meet Fed's requirement. There's a lot of things that we don't have to have amenities there to be in compliance at our level of airport. And those things Mike can answer for us.
We paid him
We're not going to lose our federal grant money.
Okay, I think I understand. I mean, your position, I think I'll still call the question and we'll get a vote.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. In that case, can I get a motion to approve FBO agreement ground lease and hangars?
President, would you like any staff? Comments?
I don't think I need them.
This is straight up. We either stop our agreement, and we've been talking about this for several months, or we put an operator in place. I think those two things, that question is clear enough to call.
Right, but John, if I may interrupt, the report that Mike Davis gave us did not assist us in this motion. It was generic boilerplate responses from Mike Davis. We didn't get to the heart of the problems and didn't identify them so we can identify them in the years coming forward. We can't kick the can down the road doing that. Especially when it's a third party and it's an isolated area that's not under the window of the port office. That's the one asset we have that we need eyes on the ground.
All right, let me get, maybe it'd be better to reach for commissioner opinion. See if we can work through the issues.
I struggle moving forward when a commissioner feels this strongly about something, but I also understand it. I understand the time sensitivity, but I do think there's time to look into this a little more, and should we agree at that time to move forward with the contract study? So if the commission feels that strongly, wants to get some more information, I think we're missing something kind of collaborative.
Okay.
I tend to agree. I spoke with Mike Davis and I did hear some of his concerns about the process, and so if not all of the information was adequately presented to us, I think that it would be good for us to have a discussion and a full understanding of what it is we're doing, and I think we could do it in a very timely manner. I know that Mike expressed interest in wanting to talk to us further to make sure that we understood what was happening or what we were agreeing to, and so we can get him in the next week or so. I can make my schedule available to have a discussion so that we can all make sure that this is the right thing for the court for a 5 years.
If you have a quorum of commissioners, of course, it's a special meeting, so you have to keep that.
So it'd be a 2-week timeline.
No,
No, you can have a special meeting, no short order,
Yeah.
but you just have to
When you
advertise.
24-hour period to do sufficient public notice.
You know you're late enough, I think.
Defer the other commissioners.
Then, Commissioner Strike, I think that we have a 3-1 situation. So there's
Okay.
no vote. And I guess it will just fail I should still call it, and it just won't get just let it go.
Yeah, just.
All right, so
Maybe it'll fail. If it won't get a second, it'll fail anyway.
yeah, so we just won't bring it up.
Okay.
Informal understanding that something's gonna happen because we got an actual tenant flapping in the breeze. The only one that wants to work with us.
That's correct. And I'm not saying we kick it down the can and string this thing out, but I'm saying, hey, let's come to group as a five agree on it. It's an asset, a very viable asset. It's a hot ticket right now with noise abatement and everything else. We need to be on board as a commission. As a board, we need to be informed.
That view has carried the day. So,
Pardon me?
all right,
So we'll try to schedule a special meeting.
Yeah,
and
try to
then
schedule a
that's
special
it.
meeting.
Okay.
and next up would be off the consent agenda, item I, the through fence.
So this is the.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is the fence agreements, there's 3 of them. They're 5 years, properties that are right here. These properties. So basically we give them a through the fence agreement, we charge them. We came up with an amount, some of them won't even use the access, but there are probably 2 that will use access. the Smil and the Arroyo. Get them, in that area.
Do they have airplanes in their garage? And they,
Two of them do. I don't think Phil has any. So we came up with this amount 5 years ago, and when we told them everything. So how we came up with it was what's the tie down? Another go down and tie it down. $5 a that. Right? The idea is how many times would you use this? Actually use come through back tax. And we have procedures they have to follow. And we came up with no more than 60 days, probably between 30 and 60 days. So we set it a little higher. We set it around 84 days or something. Yeah, that's where it comes. That's where it comes from. Just giving them access for those folks that have to make it equal.
and I guess FAA, that's okay. They can just.
Yeah, you do have to have a through the fence agreement though. That they would require you to have that.
And that was the part that I think you double check on, because the rules, the FAA with regard to the fence have changed. What the rule is now might be different to what it was a while ago.
I checked on that. So
Okay,
the rule,
I didn't know what.
yeah, so the rule hasn't changed, and they still require the through the fence agreement. Right, here. It changed between residential, commercial, industrial.
Commissioner Everett, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, the reason I had that poll for the consent agenda is that I've always been never supportive of through the fence agreements. I think it appeases the one pilot. It doesn't do anything for 23,000 constituents that we represent. And bear in mind, we are not a residential air park. And an air park, guys, is where people live at the airport, and they are avid pilots, and they have setbacks that the feds require. We can't meet those setbacks from the active runway or the active taxiway. They have minimums of 30, 40-foot taxiways out of their garage and hangars. They have CC&Rs in place that we don't. You can't do certain things like soccer balls and those things. Just imagine if John Mann got a phone call that we had 2 kids playing soccer between the hangars, he'd remove them. But now those 2 kids in the backyard can't be removed because that ball has a good odds of flipping over the gate or the fence. And anytime you put a gate and a fence, that is a weak link. That's an access point. And these 3 pilots are very competent pilots. It's not about that. It's about safety. It's not personal. This is a situation where I'm going to fly just to Dallas quick, and I'll leave the gate open, and the dog runs out. If the gate wasn't there, the dog would not have ran out more than likely. And I'm coming from this as a safety, as a pilot myself, and I proved it to Mike when we were on final one day. There was a guy with a lawnmower on our grass taxiway, and I'm on final. And if you ask Fred, 90% of all aviation accidents happen within 5 miles of the tarmac, of the active runway. And that's because everybody's going to that location. Now, the last thing I want to do is have to worry about a dog, a small child, or a football, or something coming in. I've never supported this, and I've got to get back on my soapbox because I don't want anybody to think that I do support it. Now, I do believe in through the fences, but it's got to be for a better use and not for the individual situation, because we're not an air park. Thank you.
So I will say we're caught between a rock and a hard thing here. So we either have to have it through the fence based on the FAA requirements. And they have the master plan, and this was brought up during the master plan. Or we have to put a fence based on the FAA specification. It's not just a 3-foot high fence.
Well,
so
Fred, we allowed this. Didn't we allow this? We does like it wasn't a Fed requirement. It was
It was.
Runway users came to us and we
No,
approved it.
No, this is a Fed requirement. It is a requirement. And that came up during the master plan. So we had two options. So we had to either get this through the fence agreement and say, okay, and put the procedures in place, the best practices. This is what you'll do if you use this. Or we had to build a fence, which we didn't have the money.
Okay.
The federal funding for.
Okay, Fred, but that's going to be the next buyer of that real estate. Those 3 lots are going to come with the same defense to us. And it's going to transfer in. It's not supposed to. It's our discretion, but you got a homeowner there and a realtor selling that piece of property with access to the airport as an asset. I know we have the right to say no, but we're not saying no.
How long has this agreement been in place where they could take their airplanes from their
When
house?
we did the master plan, that's where it came.
2007.
So how long has it been actual? That they're taking airplanes from their house to the,
After, probably before my time.
15 years.
So,
has it ever been a problem in 15 years?
so is the survivorship of the contract the individual, or does it ride with the property? Like, could this be if we're in Hobie's, what he's saying is, if one of those 4 people went to go sell their house, the new buyers get this through the Friends agreement automatically.
It's on the individual.
It's on the individual.
So we could
Just
just say,
remove the land.
this dies with the land,
So
like
this
this dies
dies
with
with the individual,
the
so
individual.
they can't pass it to the.
But wait a minute. If we say no to that new buyer, then we've got to erect a fence, which we can do now too. We have the budget for that. So that's a catch-22 there, guys.
The FAA pay for fences like that?
They will, but you have to put it through their process.
Sure.
So it could be 3 to 5 years.
I've got no problem taking away a property right that is existent without cause or, bad behavior.
Well, what about safety, John?
Yeah.
Do you not agree that when you put a fence and a gate in a fence, that's a weak access point? Isn't that a higher potential for safety? Priority 1, John, is the pilot's safety, not our adjacent landowners. And I'll argue that point with you. I'm a pilot.
Well, understood, but we have a 15-year track record with no safety problem.
Yeah, and the space shuttle didn't blow up until it blew up, too. Things happen. Why create a potential liability that we can manage and control for all constituents? That's my say.
Understood.
Thank you.
I guess if I'm looking at it, I come down on the property right side of the questions.
Well, I think the long-term piece to this we're sort of caught, like I said. Sort of have to move forward with one, but we also, you could instruct staff to move forward with the fence. But that, I don't see it.
Okay, I didn't understand that. We have to make a choice. If it's not,
If we don't do
okay,
this,
then it has to be a fence.
then we'll have to notify the FAA that we don't have a fence.
That's what I'm going to get on the discussion.
I think that I understand the safety issues. I also understand the precedent that has been set for 15 years. I would be inclined to do, we have to do something, so let's move forward with this agreement, but with the understanding and the notification to these owners, give them time to prepare and to, recognize what's gonna happen, that this
is probably gonna be the last one they get.
we're gonna move forward and trying to go for the.
So the fence will be the entire airport that they will, when we put that project together. We have some other requirements, right along this road that aren't needed at that, so. That's a project that meets their FAA requirements. But that would be what would go into the CIP.
I suggest we go ahead and approve these for now. I mean, there hasn't been an issue. I haven't announced, done, okay, what I'm gonna take to fence the airport. fences back to decades. Well, we haven't had any issues with it yet. I understand the concerns for safety. At the same time, if we stop now, and head down a path where we're going to spend a lot of money for a capital project. At this stage, I think we ought to go ahead and approve these, and maybe make those people that we're signing these with, that we're looking very closely, not doing these in the future, and if that's the case, so they can start preparing for it.
And maybe in that roundtable discussion we have with Mike Davis, we can up as to what are other small airports doing? Is it an issue? Is it becoming more of an issue? Is it not a big deal? He would probably have a better understanding of other.
Would you table these?
No, but I mean, it has to be done. One or the other has to be done. And so I
And
think,
both have to be done.
yeah.
CIP and this.
Are they operating on all these accounts currently?
Yeah, they just, oh, they'll expire at the end of
That's 15 years, so the property didn't originally come with these agreements, they just did it.
Right.
And they get to keep doing it, so.
But they've only had it through the fence for 5 years.
No, so it's not, I wouldn't consider that a historical property right for these people.
Is it personal?
It's a personal agreement, but I do think we need, if we wanted to exit these contracts, what's it saying there, what are the terms? Say 3 years from now?
3 years from now. I think it's 5 years.
Can you get out of it, or is it a 5-year agreement?
You have a better idea. I don't think there's a termination clause.
I think we do. If they don't pay their fee, if they do something wrong, so they have to meet the default. So,
So since this is subject to legal review anyways, can't we
yes, we can.
say,
The termination.
let's put a termination clause?
Because I'd also like to know what's the time frame, because it sounds like we're gonna need to fence some other areas, from what you just mentioned, there's probably some
When we
more
do the fence,
requirements.
when we put that project into the.
Right. Right, what's the time frame where I can expect to hear that presentation on that? If we want to look into that, it sounds like we need to anyway, what's the time frame for?
So every September, we put in our CIP list, that gets chewed up with all the other western region.
And we start a process that takes multiple years
Correct.
probably, what do we need to do to have that be in September?
I think the likelihood is, we have a high likelihood of getting it in the CIP for us. But it won't be next year, the year after, but probably will be 2023.
Yeah, we make that request this year. We approve this with an exit clause that we might not use, but it's there in case in a few years we need to. That's not my.
Yeah, maybe sounds like it kind of catches all the bases.
Comfortable.
Yeah, I get the general idea. So,
Commissioner Strike, did you hear all that?
It's tough, guys. It's breaking up really hard, so.
The idea, Jerry, Hobie right now is to approve through the fence agreements, subject to legal review and directing legal counsel to insert a termination clause. And to communicate to those agreement folks that we are also pursuing a fencing project in our CIP allocation from the FAA. We would submit that this September. And Fred expects that the earliest we would be funded for that project would be 2023.
Okay, also, we may want to add, if that's the case, and that is, say, the deadline or the tentative date of 2023, we may want to have legal counsel look at imposing some CCRs, the things that can't be done in the backyard or could be in that runway protection zone, setbacks from the active taxiway, that we can enforce, because it's just safety. It's just nothing personal. I mean, I don't care who lives there. They're good pilots. They're great pilots. It's not the pilot. He left the facility. It's the wife, the daughter, the neighbor, the neighbor's friend comes over. It's a safety issue, guys, and we need to make sure we can control another asset that we're liable for. That's the bottom line, guys. We're the big fish in the tank.
So one of the things that I need to bring to your attention, kind of, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. The FAA, when we put in that fence, may require, or should have been required, distance from the middle of the runway out, that could impose upon the backyard. Could be further into the backyard.
Fred saying that
So
he
there-
anticipates the FAA would require a minimum distance from the center of the runway to the
Right.
fence.
Right. And so we're going to compound that with putting a gate in there with access for dogs and children. That doesn't make sense to me. We're not even meeting requirement now of the structure that won't move. I'm talking about moving objects that comes into our landing zone. As a pilot, I don't want to be worried about. I want to worry about wind.
I think I understand your point. And amongst the discussion, a solution is on the table. And are you actually opposed to that solution, Commissioner?
Are you speaking with me, John? 'Cause I didn't quite hear all that. Sorry.
Commissioner Strike?
Yeah, he's asking.
Yeah, I'm trying to move forward with the question.
Oh, well, I'm not pro through the gate, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. But legal counsel can reassure me that, or us, that we're moving in the right direction to get. I'm just not for through the fences. I mean, unless it was a commercial building that generates income, employment, but this is just for one pilot. It doesn't.
We should have on the table
I said,
with legal.
we don't have the.
I'm sorry, I missed
No,
that.
John, we don't have the infrastructure set up. It's not designed for it. It never has been. We're landlocked. We're land shorted anyway. And then to open it up to another potential, and I'm not saying the pilot's the problem. I'm saying the gate being open's the problem. If the gate wasn't there, there's not a gate open problem. It's pretty simple to me. I mean,
Understood.
thank you.
So the proposed motion would be to go have legal counsel review, and in addition to the agreement that we get a right to rescind, and then try and get on the timeline of the FAA project money.
Right, but I'm just saying too, John, is that we may have the right to rescind, but that's going to be after an accident happens. Then it's too late, John.
Well,
We need to be proactive, not reactive. And this here is reactive. The way legal counsel is going at it, it's reactive.
money management, we're trying to get it on the same timeline as the budgets for the FAA.
Something that strikes me that we haven't.
Well, if that was the case, John, why didn't we do it 5 years after we approved the first one and put it in the budget? Because, we forgot about the airport. It's out of sight, it's out of mind. It's the red-headed orphan, and we got to get that kid back into our house.
I will say that, again, this is the requirement. And it was a requirement for us to get the funding for the south at that point in time, for the rest of the funding for the master plan and for the north end. So it's a catch-22.
Well, the other thing that.
We made it a catch-22 because we weren't willing to spend the money. Shame on us.
During this discussion, you made it sound like the two options are through the fence or a fence that can be constructed using FAA money maybe 3 years from now. But you also mentioned about a setback in terms of where the fence would be in relation to a part of the runway.
That probably is coming out of there.
And the question comes up, is the fence that's required on private land or on corporate?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because if it's on private land, then it would be a taking on the part of the court to put a fence up.
Well, Michael?
Depends on the setback.
Yeah.
That's there's a shyness that's there, and if the setback is defined as X and it's in someone's yard, it's okay. We don't know.
Like, right, when you file with the FAA in September, and you start on this
Right.
path, you then receive this information, and
We
this
will
is part of
start
the
to-
process,
yeah.
right?
Correct.
And I think the language that we instructed legal counsel to put in the agreements, then you can then do an analysis of what this is gonna take. Is it gonna be a taking? Where's the fence have to go? And you know all that. You do have these, through the fence agreements in place, and you can do them accordingly, then we have information forward. So my suggestion is we go ahead and approve these, subject to that, change of the language, and then we go again as we go forward. We have to.
So you might just for the minutes, you might want to have two separate direction, one to authorize staff to add that to the CIP and then the different, separate one for those.
If I could, I'll make a motion that we approve these agreements subject to legal counsel review and providing some sort of a termination or quick clause that the board could exercise. And I would also, let us make that motion initially, then the second motion would be for the staff.
I'll second.
Okay, could you repeat the motion? So,
Did you get that, Genevieve?
did you hear it?
Subject to
So
legal
the
counsel.
motion, yeah, there's a motion and a second to approve through the fence agreement, subject to legal counsel review, requesting that legal counsel insert a termination clause provision.
Okay, then we have moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Well, doesn't the existing contract legal counsel have a termination clause in it? It already
No.
has.
We think not.
It has no termination. Wait a minute. I really had a conversation with Michael that we had that in there. If in the event we found it to be a problem, we could terminate. Is that not true?
Stand by.
Events of default by user.
Stand by, yeah. We should have had a contract like that.
So owner and its option may declare this agreement terminated in its entirety if user breaches any condition of this agreement, including upon the happening of any one or more of the following events, and may exercise all the rights related to termination. The fees unpaid, if user shall file a voluntary petition in bankruptcy, if user shall use or permit the use of user's premises at any time for any purpose which is not authorized by this agreement, or permit the use thereof in violation of law, regulation, or FAA.
Can I just intervene, board? If you can have all those eviction clauses in that contract, but you're going to evict them after or address it after there's an accident. That's what I'm trying to get. It's being reactive. You're building in a contract that's just reactive. It's not going to address the safety of our constituents and our user group until after the fact.
If we want the FAA to pay for a fence, this is the route we have to go as far as, not this first part, but the second part.
Right.
If we want them to pay for it, we submit in September, that's the fastest way to do it.
Right.
Correct?
And here's the catch. If you don't do this,
You're gonna do
when we
that
submit
tomorrow
to
with
the
your own, you're gonna do that
FAA, we won't
tomorrow
get
with
the
your own
funding
money.
to do it.
We'll be paying for it.
Yeah.
It sounds like this.
Good.
So, and I assume, can I ask you a question, Dr. Bush, I'm not saying something like that, this is a term, applies like for any reason we get it.
Right. That's
In
understood.
the court's discretion.
That's correct.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Yes,
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded.
Mary Winters.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everett, aye. Commissioner Strike?
Nay, just for the safety of my constituents.
Okay, motion passes.
I'd also like to make a motion to direct staff to look into the potential for including fencing in the CIP for the airport. I want to be clear that I'm not making the motion that it be done, but that initiate the process of looking into it, because we could get into takings and all sorts of things that we don't know what to get into. So not that we include it in the CIP, but that we begin the process of analysis to see.
Give an analysis. I'll second that.
Commissioner Everett, can you have Genevieve read that back to me?
Yeah, so the second motion by Commissioner Everett is to direct staff to perform an analysis on including a fencing project in the CIP at the airport in September 2021.
Okay, thank you.
We need to hear about that before September, like, the next, will be down before September, and people to vote on actually doing it.
And Commissioner Shepard is requesting a report prior to on that analysis.
Good call, Shep.
Okay, so is that,
I can second that.
can we get it stated, Genevieve, so we clear
I
on what
hope
we're,
I have it right.
yeah, sorry.
Direct staff to perform an analysis of a fencing, to include fencing at the Kendrickstead Airfield as a FAA-funded CIP project in September 2021, and to provide a report to the commission prior to that submission on the analysis.
Okay.
Very
And
good on the fly here.
then I have a motion, I have a second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Edward, aye. Commissioner Strike?
Aye.
Okay, passes. That'll take us to item K, approve maintenance warranty extension with CAPS or electronic tolling hardware.
Is
You want me to take this, John?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to say why I pulled it out, or
Well,
do you
let's
want to
get-
have Fred explain it first?
And then we can hear why you pulled it out.
Okay. Pardon me?
He said he wants Fred to explain what it is, and then he's going to ask why you pulled it into action.
Okay, thank you.
So this is our annual warranty service contract with CAPS. It's for the readers and for the light control. So this is their annual maintenance. So what we get with that is a truck roll at a phone call. So if our system goes down, a reader goes down, I have problems with it, I get a truck roll out of the Seattle area to come back. It comes out here and address it within 48 hours. So that's what it's in here. Also with this is any failure with any of the hardware they pay. So if that $8,000 reader lane 4 goes out, I get an $8,000 limit put back in. Without, I mean, that's part of this. So that's what this is. It gives us time. So if our system is down, if we don't do this, then I'm at the whim of whatever priority they have. So 2 weeks, it won't be 48 hours. So I have a system that's out. I don't have a reason. There are some things we can do. If it's lane 4, I can move some traffic into lane 2. But if it's a lane 2, it's like I'd be moving a lot of traffic over. There is, with this license plate recognition system, I can start to use some of that. But this is sort of it's an insurance policy.
Does it apply to Cascade locks as well?
No.
That's hardware.
It's hardware.
And we pay this regardless of whether or not we have to call
Yes. Cascade Locks also pays. They have their own
them. Okay.
CAPS. They use CAPS as well, the 6C, and they pay them.
Okay, I think Commissioner Strike, could we hear why you took it off the consent?
You bet. It really wasn't the line item itself. It's more the bigger picture on the tolling hardware. And I have a real concern that's building up that we need some redundancy. Fred is one man, and if something goes wrong with the software or the hardware, we have Fred. And I think that we, the board, need to instruct our staff to have a second person on board, ready to go, know the contact numbers, software, hardware, so we have a backup. Because Fred could go away tomorrow. You never know. It's human. But we don't have a plan I know of as a commissioner in place. So in the event, because we're going to lose revenue immediately that day, we can find another bean counter to help us walk through the port's audit and accounting. But that toll is lost revenue every second. And we need to have redundancy and a backup plan, and I don't see that anywhere in anything we do. That was my whole concern. I use that to get attention, but as far as the motion, I'm fine with that. But we need to have the board, I feel, come to agreement that we have some type of backup to support Fred, and at any time can step in there and not miss a beat. Thank you.
Please.
So, in your Peace Corps contract, you talked about the 35,000 project limit. That is a piece that is in the contract. Yeah, if I died tomorrow, you would be using that $35,000. Because using Shane.
But do we have a staff member that's trained? That's what I'm getting at, Fred. I mean, you do a great job. I'm saying, do we have somebody else in the office or dedicated to step in and say, I know if
in the office anymore. You don't. This is something that we have people that are in Tacoma that can dial up to that reader. I have a person in Philadelphia that goes into our back office, and all the lane information is coming out of San Diego. They can see it, they can read it. I can call them up on the phone, and I can sit there and talk to them at the toll booth and see the same thing they're saying. So we do have redundancy. We do have redundancy within our contracts. So it wasn't something that if I were to go away, we wouldn't do it. So I just want to try to reassure everyone that it is there.
Yeah, I think what Hope is trying to say, and I agree with, is we still need someone here, and I think we're addressing it in our organizational plan of having someone else, so if you didn't show up tomorrow, they would know the phone number to call to enact that next person in time to do stuff, and then, but we need to keep it in, we need to keep someone here always in the know as well, to just have overall redundancy.
And if I could speak to that.
It's no different than John Mann. He has a foreman and he teaches his ins and outs. John's in charge, but the foreman knows a lot that John does. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good business.
And if I could speak to that, we've had, I've not taken tolling, an informal kind of tolling committee position, because this is such a confusing subject. And, I gotta tell you, I talked to Fred and he draws boxes and I draw lines and we talk about what it all means. That kind of redundancy is built into his contracts, but it's diffused. I mean, it's in each individual contract. Michael has a number he can call up. But if Fred dies, we need to get another Fred. I don't know if we can afford Michelle.
Like I said, I just feel uneasy about this, and I wanted to bring it up. It's been bothering me, and I've aired it, and you guys can hash it out whatever you want to do, but I put it on the table.
Now, we do have staff here. I want to say that we have staff that knows a lot of the pieces of the puzzle, right? Yana Scoggins, Marcela Diaz. When you work with the system, you know the ins and outs of a lot of parts of the system. And so it's not like if I go away tomorrow, no one's going to be scrambling. No one's going to be scrambling. Things will continue. It's an electronic tolling system. So it's made to go and continue without a lot of hand-holding. It shouldn't be painful like. So we have staff that can actually figure out issues that come across. And when they can't, they know how to troubleshoot. And when they can't, they do go and they hit P-squared. Or they know that, okay, they can figure out, oh, it's a reader. They know how to do that. So I understand you, but yes. I'm just trying to give you more reassurance.
I appreciate it, because it's a pretty dark box. Yeah, again, and can I get a motion in? Because Hope, if I understand you, you don't have any issue with the motion. Maybe this could have come up.
That's correct. That was my segue in, John, yeah. And Fred, you're not having heart pains, are you, Fred?
Not yet.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Hey, can I get a motion on item K?
I move we approve the Caption Traffic USA maintenance contract for electronic tolling system hardware, the amount of $47,700.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pepper, aye. Commissioner Strike?
Aye.
Aye. Commission call, does anybody, commissioner, have an item or issue they'd like to bring up?
I do.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to both of you. Got elected on the same day. I want to do a lot for both of you in this.
I second that.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah. I like you too.
I've known John a long time. We were neighbors and buddies long before this.
Okay, then, I'll take us, we're gonna go to executive session, so I'll take regular session and release us, get us offline. I'm gonna get a sweatshirt, except for you.
You might have counseled for the
Okay,
executive session items.
the executive session will be under ORS 192.6602E, real estate negotiations, and 192.6602I, to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief